My name is Mark Adams. I'm the president of the Tulsa Amateur Radio Club. I have been licensed since 1986, so I've seen a few solar cycles. I've had some fun with them. I'm looking forward to this one. This is really cool because I remember back in the 80s, I guess it was, working HF late into the night, 12, 1 o'clock, even 2 o'clock in the morning into Europe. And it was, I mean, that was from California into Europe. And it was really a lot of fun. So glad you're here. HF is where it's at. We are going to probably towards the end of January do a license exam like we did a year ago. So if anybody is a technician or a general and wants to upgrade, then that'll be your opportunity. So keep an eye on Facebook, keep an eye on the website, and we'll have that for you. Okay, if you've got one of these, like he said, this is all available or will be available on the website, and I've got a few left. If anybody else wants to take one, that's fine. The first category there is HF equipment. So we've got two different radios here. This one is a Kenwood TS590. It's a down conversion radio, and this one is an ICOM 7300, which is an SDR radio. So you can see how much smaller it is, and part of that is because it's software instead of all parts, all electronic parts. So basically they work the same. The SDR may be a little bit more sensitive on reception. Some people like it, some people don't. This one's mine. I prefer this one. I've been using. This is actually my second one. This is an S model, which I bought in 2011. The one I have at home is a 590 SG, which I love it. I'm not gonna trade it in, for anything. But that's just my personal preference. So, which leads you to the next question: which one do you need? And it is kind of a personal preference, and it's kind of like an HT. That if you have an HT and you've tried them, you don't like the small ones if you've got fat fingers, because you end up pushing 2 or 3 buttons. So you want to get a different HT that's got bigger buttons. It's the same thing with these. This one mainly has buttons on the front, which I like. I'm a knob tweaker, so I prefer to have buttons that I can control rather than going through a bunch of memories or a bunch of menu items trying to find it. This one has a touch screen, which is a little different, because if you want to change your band, or you want to change it, you can just touch on the touch screen. Some people like that, some people don't. So it really kind of comes down to personal preference, and pretty much any HF rig that you get these days, whether it's you can get an FT891, a Yaesu FT891. I've got one of those too. I love it. I use it for portable operations. It works great. It's about $700? Yep. You can go all the way up to an FTDX10 or a 710, which are $1,200–1,500. You can go up to $3,000. You can go up to, I forget what it is, a 7610 maybe, or one of those. It's like $8,000. You can buy a small car for that. So it really depends on what you're going to do with it, which is the next thing, which you may not know yet. If you're new to HF, you probably know. Yes, sir.
Do you agree with the statement that nowadays there aren't any bad modern radios?
Yes. Pretty much. If you're a contester, that may be, you want every little edge you can get, but for the run-of-the-mill ham, they can't tell the difference. And I didn't put it down here, but if you do a search for Rob Sherwood, he's got a list of hundreds of radios that he rates, and the only part that he rates is the reception. But if you bought any of the first 25, you'd never know the difference, unless you're just a hardcore contester. So you probably don't even know what you want to do. Do you want to do voice? Do you want to do CW? Do you want to do digital? And I'm going to put a plug in here for Jeff because he's going to talk about digital later on this afternoon. I do SSTV too, slow scan TV, which is a lot of fun. Basically, it's sending pictures off, to some other ham somewhere, and you can watch the picture as it comes across the computer screen. Any CW operators in here? Yes, I know you are. And you are. Yep. Good. So that may be your preference too. If you just want to do voice, that may be your preference too. The hard part is until you get into HF, maybe you don't know what you want to do. So, but you can't go wrong with any of these. They work great no matter what you do. So really, it does come down to, do you like the knobs or do you like the touch screen? As far as the cost, like I said, you can buy a new FT891 for about $600, $700. Basically, it does everything these do. It's 100 watts, and you can pay, all the way up to $1,100, $1,200, $1,500. It's really just depends on what your budget is. On the reference page back here, there is a company called Main Trading Company. They're down in Paris, Texas. They have a lot of used HF radios. So that would be a place that if you're looking for something used that's quite a bit cheaper, then that would be a place to go. There's another one, there's a Facebook page, Oklahoma Ham Traders, and they also have equipment on there. I like that one because it's Oklahoma only. There's nobody from outside Oklahoma, so anywhere you're going to buy from, it's within an hour, 2 hour, 3 hour drive. So you don't have to worry about shipping. So it just depends on what your budget is. And so the next thing is, okay, what are you going to do? Where are you going to put this stuff? Where are you going to build your ham shack? Personally, I've got mine on the second floor of a 2-story house, and I've got my cables running through the attic and then down and then underground out to where my antenna is. You can, again, it's personal preference. If you want the radio here, you want it over here, you want your computer up here. I don't know how many times I've rearranged all my stuff because I don't like the way it looks. I don't like that it's here. And I use I use 2 different monitors, so I can log on one and I can do maybe like a PAN adapter on the other one, or I can do FL Digi, some data modes. I do RTTY also. I do some of that contesting. So, but you do want to try and get, because you may be sitting there for hours, so you do want to try and make it as comfortable as you can. And I would suggest too, since we're all a little bit older, most of us are a little bit older, get up once in a while, take a little walk around, take a few minutes, stretch a little bit, and then go back and sit down, because I know I can't sit there for 3 hours at a stretch and then try and get up and walk. It's not easy. So, but other than that, you can go online, you can Google ham shacks, and you'll find hundreds of pictures and videos of ham shacks. And they're all different styles. You've got some people that have 5 or 6 radios, and you've got some people that have 1. And so it's your own personal preference. Now you do have to have room for an antenna. If you live in a house that's got a regular lot, you may be able to put up some kind of an antenna in the backyard, be it a dipole or a vertical. And I'll put in a plug for Remel now, because he's going to talk about that next, antennas and propagation. I also live in an HOA, which creates problems for me, But I was able to hide amongst some trees in the backyard a 27-foot vertical. It's made by 07, I think. They call it an HOA vertical because it'll work without radials. It'll work better if you have radials down, but it's not required. So if you live in an apartment or you live in, let's see, there's one gentleman, I don't think he's here today. Nope, not here. He lives in University Tower on the 22nd floor. You know, where are you going to put an antenna? That's the problem. So you have to have space for an antenna, and there are some balcony antennas that you can clamp onto your balcony. I'm going to put a plug in for Mike now in his presentation later on about portable operations. So that's an option. There's a lot of people in the club, including myself, that we like going out to Chandler Park, or we'll go to Mike goes to a lot of state parks, and he'll operate there through POTA, the Parks on the Air. And so if you can't do it at home, you can do it, you can do it someplace else. So there you're going to want to put together some sort of a portable go kit, if you will, with a radio, maybe a tuner, an antenna, and a battery. And he's going to get into that, and we're also there's going to be some future programs that we present for HF University about batteries and power and all that stuff. Grounding is also important. You got to make sure that things are grounded. It's happened to me that I've been talking on the radio and get that microphone a little bit too close to your face or your lips, and you get zapped because you've got RF coming back through the radio and back through the microphone and everything. It doesn't feel good. It kind of hurts. So you definitely want to ground for RF. You definitely want to ground for electrical safety to make sure that you don't get electrocuted by something. So that's going to be another future presentation that we're going to do is on grounding. And then of course power. You got to have power. Now 12 volts is 12 volts is 12 volts. But if you're going to be on battery power, you got to keep in mind your amperage that you're drawing out of your battery. If you're using a power supply, you can do it all day long. But a typical HF rig maxes out at about a 20 amp draw. Now if you're doing sideband, it doesn't draw nearly that much. But if you're doing CW or you're doing digital, you do have to be careful what the draw is, and obviously you don't want to overload your power supply. But that'll be another presentation that we're going to do is on power. So that being said, anybody have any questions about that part so far?
So on a power supply, if I were looking for a power supply and I was trying to run like VHF, UHF, dual bander, and an HF rig, what kind of amps would I be looking at for a power supply?
You got to look at the specifications in the book and see what the maximum draw is. I know that I'm not going to be talking on a dual band radio and my HF radio at the same time, so I don't have to add those together. But you may have some peripherals, like we're going to talk about here in a minute, that also draw 12 volts that you have to keep those in mind as well. I went ahead and ordered, I think it's a 30 or a 35 amp power supply. You pay a little bit more for that, but you're going to be well over what you need for your amperage, for your draw. So some of the other peripherals you could have, I mean, anything that runs off of 12 volts, you even got an LED sign that somebody gave you that has your call sign on it. You know, that draws the amperage. It may only be a few milliamps, but it still draws amps. If you have any kind of, let's see, what would it be? Any kind of equalization, that type of thing, that for your audio, that draws something. There's, I don't know, there could be any number of things that draw 12, but you have to keep in mind, you have to add that stuff up and make sure that you don't overload your power supply. As far as the peripherals are concerned, the speakers in these are about this big. It's like your HT, and you know how your HT sounds? Not so great. So for HF, yeah, get an external speaker. They have them for. I bought a couple of speakers at a Hamfest for $20 a piece, and I use those. I like having two speakers because I like the kind of the surround sound. I've got one over here and one over here, and that helps me hear better. Again, we're all getting older. It's my hearing. So that would be something that you may want to think about. Also, headphones. The difference between listening to speakers and listening to headphones is like night and day, because you can hear so much better. And you can get a boom mic that goes on there, which is my preference. I don't like the mic that hangs off of the boom. I prefer to have it on my head, because then no matter which way I turn, I can get up and I can go grab something over here, and I don't have to worry about always keeping the microphone in front of me. Again, it's personal preference, and you can get those. Heil has got some great headsets for that. If you're going to do digital stuff, yes, sir.
On your headsets, you might want to try somebody, especially if you have hearing aids, because you can put the headset on, and at least mine does. And right in the middle of something, the hearing aids will ding, 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 go up and down, and it's
Yeah.
kind of hard to hear.
Compatibility sometimes is an issue, yeah, because there are some headsets that actually sit on your ears. They've got foam, but they sit on your ears, and there are the cup kind also that go over your ears. Again, it's personal preference. I've got both kinds. I prefer the over the ear, because then I don't hear the antenna tuner. I don't hear anything in the background. It's just so much easier to hear. Heil also has an option that you can get. There's a little switch that will phase in and phase out the sound, and basically, instead of having it in both ears at the same time, there's a little bit of just a slight delay, which makes it sound a little bit different, a little farther away. Makes it a little bit easier to understand, if you've got hearing issues. So a computer, if you do any kind of digital stuff, you want to do FL Digi, you want to do anything digital, that would be that. If there's a lot that you can interface. Some of I think both of these radios, the 7300 does as a rig control, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yep. So and the 590 does too. So if you want to park your radio over here and you want to do a point and click to do all your controls on your radio, you can do that too, but you need the computer. So there is software that you can get for some of the digital modes, and Jeff will get into that a little bit later, but like I said, there's FL Digi. There's if you do like Ham Radio Deluxe, it does both. It does rig control, it does the data modes. It has satellite programs that you can monitor where the satellites are. It also has a logging program, that kind of thing. There is N3FJP is another logging program. That's my preference, and that's the one we use with the club. We use that with Field Day. It runs about $30, I think, $35, but it's a really good program. The guy did a really good job of putting it together, and you can customize it however you want to fit your design. Like if I'm doing a contest, I may only want 2 or 3 fields instead of 10. And when you have to hit the space bar to go 10, go through all those fields, well, you can get rid of all those. You can only have 1 or 2 that you need for that contest. Personal preference, yeah. N3FJP, and it's listed on the back here too, on the reference page. ARRL has a logging program. There's EQSL. Again, the best thing you can do is just go through some of these and just get on your computer some night when it's raining and you got nothing else to do and just peruse. A CW key, for those that do CW. Mike, your preference is paddles, right? A straight key? Okay. Remo, what do you use, a straight key or paddles? Straight key?
If it's a contest and getting fast, I'll switch to the paddles, but my first choice, especially from running with Rumble, he smacked my knuckles hard.
All right, good. What's your preference?
I have a bug.
You have a bug? Okay. So there again, and you can get those. You can pick those up. Again, if you go to Main Trading Company, sometimes you'll find a used one on there. I picked up a Vibraplex straight key that was made in 1996, I think it was. It's like $35. I don't know why they didn't have it for $100. I went on their website. It was a $125 straight key, and they had it for $30, $35. So I picked it up, whether I use it or not. So again, that's another one of those things that we may get into another seminar, another university later on. We'll talk more about CW. And logging and rig control, again, there's all kinds of things on the back. The ones that I put on the back on the reference page are some of the more popular ones that I know of. Like I said, personally, I use N3FJP. I do have Ham Radio Deluxe too. I use that occasionally. If you're a contester, N1MM. Most of the contesters use N1MM. There's a log for OM. There's Logbook of the World through ARRL, the EQSL, SwissLog for Windows. That's a free one. WinLog 32. MMSS-TV is the digital program for slow scan television. It's a free one, and then FL Digi's on there too. That's also a free one. So as far as computer programming is concerned, there's a whole bunch of things out there. Again, it's just personal preference. Some are free, a lot of them are free, but there are some that end up costing you a few bucks. Any questions about that? Okay. Miscellaneous. It's not on your list here, but it was kind of an afterthought. We have a lot of Elmers and a lot of mentors in the club, and that's why we're doing this. We want to mentor people. We want to Elmer people. And if you're a technician, we want to get you up to, a general and an extra. If you're a general, we want to get you to an extra. If you're an extra, good job. But there's a lot of people that know a lot of stuff in the different clubs, not just TARC. TRO's got a lot of people that that they're very knowledgeable about this stuff. Use them. Take advantage of their knowledge. They're not going to be upset or anything like that, and don't be embarrassed if you don't understand something. And I'm going to put in a plug for Ham Rescue also. Johnny Renfro, N5XQK, he's a silent key now. He's passed away, a couple years ago now, I think. He started a group called Ham Rescue, and there's about a dozen or 15 hams in the area that belong to Ham Rescue. And basically, if somebody needs help with an antenna, they need help programming their radios, they need help with running coax, maybe they're disabled, maybe they are older and just can't climb a ladder anymore, that's what Ham Rescue's for. So use your Elmers, use your mentors, please call them. There's on the w5ias.com website, on the club website, there's a drop down where you can find Elmers, and there's probably 10 or 12 of them on there, myself included. Call them up, use them. If you got a question about something, use them. SDR, we talked for a few minutes about SDR. You can buy these little, I don't have it with me, these little thumb drives. They call it an SDR dongle. It's a RTL SDR. Plug it into the USB port on your computer, and basically it's like a radio. I have an SDR Play, which is a little box about the size of a pack of cigarettes. I connect an antenna to it, and I can put up a pan adapter, which is, if you don't know what a pan adapter is, it monitors the frequency or frequencies. It'll monitor a whole band if you want. But there'll be a waterfall that you can see the signals coming through, and it helps you to find signals that you're looking for. If you're running a contest and you're looking for other stations to contact, that's a great thing to have, because you can interface it with your radio. Even that if you click on the pan adapter, it'll move your radio too. All these little things that I didn't know, I had to find out just by trying it. But that's what SDR is, and you can pick those up for, I think the SDR, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, anybody that's bought one recently, they used to be about $20. The SDR Play is, excuse me, it's about $100, I think, roughly. And the software is free, SDR Uno software.
Don't waste your money on $20 dongles.
Yeah.
I have 8-bit resolution. The SDR Plays 14 bits. It's a serious piece of equipment and not very much money.
Yeah. Do you use SDR Uno with that? Yeah. Yeah. So SDR Uno is a software that mates with the SDR Play. So if you're interested in the digital stuff, no. It's receive only. Go ahead.
You also have many SDRs on the internet. You don't need radio. Search for SDRs and go listen to whatever frequencies from various locations around the world.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's a lot of free to use SDR radios. Some of the more, you know about them, some of the more popular ones, I think there's one in Colorado. They're all over the place. And I know there's one in Utah also, I believe, that you can use. It's free to use, and that's exactly what it does. It's just a remote radio.
If I'm new to HF and I'm planning out my shaft, why would I want, or what could the benefit be of owning an SDR unit? If you get into contesting, or if you, well, I don't know. Who uses a pan adapter? What do you use it for?
I can see a lot better than I can hear these days.
Yeah.
You can see all the signals.
So you can see the little spikes of the signals. Yeah.
You can see where the signals are instead of tuning across with a 2K bandwidth, scanning the spectrum. You're going to miss a lot of stuff that way. This will show you the whole band at one glance.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else use it?
I'm going to talk for you. I treated the SDR as an entry drug.
Mm-hmm.
Had my technician license, had the radio, had no way to find anything out about HF. Was not going to spend $1,000 on a radio just to find out. So I got the SDR Play, and then after you do get into HF, then you have it.
Yeah.
So it's not like it goes up.
Yeah. If you eventually get into contesting, well, like I said, one of the things that I do is RTTY. It's a different signal. It looks different on the pan adapter. Typically, there's a spike for every signal that's out there, but RTTY is a double spike, and so you can scan across the band and you can find those double spikes, and then move on to the next double spike, and then move on to the next, instead of just turning the dial, like he said, instead of just turning the dial and trying to find it. So there's advantages to it, but it's probably not something that you'd need right away, but at some point, it may be of interest to you.
A lot of guys use those because it's very wide band. Okay?
Yeah.
And so you can pick up anything if you want to use it for a scanner. Airport frequencies, emergency frequencies, shortwave.
Yep.
stations all over the world. And you do that too for a pretty cheap price.
Yeah.
When you're talking about seeing the frequencies, is that like a waterfall display?
Yes. They typically have a waterfall display, and they also have a horizontal display that shows the spikes where the signals are. Yeah.
After a while, you get used to the way things look, and you can click on a signal and have it perfectly tuned to sideband instead of having to go back and forth to get it to listen.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So they are handy. They are a handy thing to have. Okay. Ham radio manners and etiquette. I put on there no lids because that's if you do something that you shouldn't do on the radio, they may, whoever's hearing you, they may end up calling you a lid. Now I don't know where that came from. Don't ask me. I have no idea. But anybody know where that came from? The term lid? It's like ham. Where did ham come from? Nobody knows. Okay. So anyway, it's a lot of listen first, which is what they always say. You don't want to interfere with somebody, and you have to be careful because if your signal is here and somebody else is right here, you may be interfering with them because your signal is about 3 kilohertz wide. So if you're just doing a rag chew, if you're just talking to somebody, they may come on, whoever you're interfering with, they may come on and they may say, oh, we got a net going on this frequency, or, we were here first, would you mind moving, And the bands change as well, propagation changes. So sometimes you can be on what seems to be a clear frequency, and 5 minutes later, you start hearing somebody right next to you, and it's just propagation changing. So if somebody asks you to change, be a good ham. Okay, let's go up 5 and get out of their way. Anything else like that? You gotta make sure that if you're talking on the radio, you want to keep about 2 inches from your mouth, because if you get too close, you start getting distorted. There are controls in here for mic gain, so you don't want to have that up too high. And I didn't talk about it at the beginning, but ALC is in there, automatic level control. You don't want your needle to bypass, to go past that ALC, because if it does, it creates problems for you. There's also voice compression in there. You got to be careful of that too. You don't want that up too high, because that will also limit your voice and your transmission. So read the manual. That's a good idea, to read the manual and play with it. And this is where one of those remote SDR radios will come in handy, because you could actually talk on your radio, have the SDR radio in your ears on headphones, and you can hear how you sound. And so if you're distorted. And believe me, there are hams out there that will let you know if you are distorted, if you're messing up your signal, and you hear them all the time. And they are doing you a favor, absolutely. And same thing with them. Let them know that their signal, and be nice about it, and you say, oh, you sound like you're off frequency, or you sound, distorted, or you sound like you're underwater. Whatever it sounds like, let them know, because they'll appreciate that too, because they want their signal to be good. They want to be heard as well. So there is a ham radio code of conduct. You can look that up on the internet too. And there are also FCC rules and regulations. Of course, those you'll find out when you upgrade your license, because there are some questions about that on the license exam. Safety. Again, make sure things are grounded. Make sure you've got good connections when you make connections, wire connections or power pole connections. Make sure that they're good connections. And probably the most important thing that I can suggest, get yourself a fire extinguisher. Keep it, I've got one right under my desk. And if my radio lets the smoke out, I want to have that fire extinguisher right there, because you never know. I've burned up, I've shorted batteries before, and you can watch the insulation on the wire just melt right off the wire, because you know, we make mistakes. And fortunately that didn't start a fire or anything, but get yourself a fire extinguisher. You don't have to have a big one, just, you know, a little one that just in case. Some of the popular ham radio websites, QRZ.com, that's a good one. A lot of people use that. They also have used equipment on there that they sell. ARRL.org, if you're not an ARRL member, I would suggest you do that. It's, I forget how much it is now, $35, $40? 40 bucks? I don't know, because I need to renew this month, matter of fact. It's a good thing to have. They're the umbrella organization, if you will, over the ham radio community. They do a lot of good. And so join the ARRL. It's a good thing. eham.net. If you're looking at a particular radio and you want to find out what the reviews are, go to eham.net, and there's reviews for everything on there, and you can see what people like about a radio, what they don't like about a radio. I go there all the time to look at, to look at stuff that's that I'm interested in purchasing, but it's all about reviews. The W5IAS.com website. There's just a ton of stuff there. We've tried to really make that like a one-stop shop for if you want to do testing, if you're looking for events coming up, if you're a new ham, there's a new ham roadmap on there that has some links to information if you're a new ham. Just anything. Like I said, it's a one-stop shop for ham radio. We also have our own Facebook page, the Tulsa Amateur Radio Club. If you search for Tulsa Amateur Radio Club on Facebook, you'll find us. We do a lot of stuff there because not everybody goes to the website. So we try to get keep that updated with information on events and activities and that. So that's an option too. We are working on a YouTube channel. We've got a few things up there already. Again, if you go to YouTube, Tulsa Amateur Radio Club, as you can see, we're starting to video record some of the meetings and some of the events that we do. We're going to make those available on the YouTube channel. So if you can't make the meeting, you can't make the event, you can check it out on YouTube. So, not bad. I know that was a lot in a hurry. This is going to be a good thing for you to keep handy. All these references for websites and everything. Go there, look at them. Just gain knowledge. Gain knowledge on all this stuff. On what you're looking for. Once you find an HF radio that you think you may like, go to eham.net. Find out what people think about it, and it may save you from buying something that you don't like. Anybody have any questions? Did I do that good of a job that there's no questions?
Yeah. That you have something there up on the computer screen.
Yeah.
Does when you talk on your HF rig, does that feedback interfere with it?
No. It will basically blank out everything, so you won't see it. I think that's right. Your transmission does not go through the SDR at all. So, Robbie, you know more about that than you've done a bunch of that.
You don't want to transmit with the antenna still hooked up
Yeah.
You need a TR switch for that, and preferably one that grounds the SDR input.
Yeah, you
You're
can.
gonna see it.
Yeah, you can get TR switches too for that, right? You've got one.
Yeah, I've got one of the MFJ ones, and I had to
Oh,
study the
give him
schematic
that
for quite a
one.
while.
There's
to
one
figure
more.
out how to hook it up in
Take that
my
one too.
situation, but finally got it to work.
Yeah,
I use that SDR all the time for tuning and everything.
yeah,
And that's a great example of you go ahead and you purchase your SDR, you purchase your peripheral, or you purchase your radio. If you have questions at that point, reach out to your Elmer community, right? TRO, CARC, Broken
Yep.
Arrow, any of your clubs that are around you, go out on their Facebook page, go to their website,
Yep.
find contact information, reach out to somebody to help you get this
Sure.
configured, because there are plenty of people who will help you do that.
yeah, and that will probably be a future Ham University program that we do, presentation that we do, will be on SDR. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
You mentioned the power supply,
Yes.
the difference between switching and linear.
Yes.
Unless you want to comment.
My personal preference, don't buy a switching power supply because they tend to be noisy. Now they do have them now that they have some sort of filtering in them. But I would get, Astron makes great power supplies. They've been making them for years and they last forever. I've had mine for probably 10 years and have no problems with it. The only issue I've heard about it is the switch on the front that went bad, or the light went out on it or something. But they just, yeah, they are heavy, but they're good. They last forever. If you're, what's that?
Schematics are available for it, so.
Yeah. So I would not get a, again, it's just personal preference. Now the switching power supplies tend to be a lot smaller. And if you can get one that has the filtering in it, do that. But otherwise, get yourself a linear.
So I have a switching power supply from Astron, one of the newer ones.
Yeah.
There's no noise in the signal. Now, some of you elders may argue with me and say, heard it. But I've not had any issues. And it's cheaper, too. That's the benefit of the switching.
That's true.
You're going to get a cheaper option. So
Yeah.
just getting started. My rule of thumb is just getting started, take what you can get, and build from there. Right?
Yeah, and you can get, again, Main Trading Company down in Paris, Texas, they've got power supplies all the time that are used. New Astrons for a 30 amp power supply, I think they're about $200 now, $225, something like that. And even more, yeah, because the more amperage, yeah, the higher the cost too. But if you're going to run you could get away with a 25 amp power supply on your HF rig, as long as that was pretty much all that you were going to be doing. That gives you a nice big margin so you don't overload your power supply. Yes, sir.
So, Mark, I own an ICOM 7300,
Mhm.
and we talked about SDR radios and pan adapters. With that particular model has the spectrum analyzer or the waterfall that you can see, and so it comes as part of it. It also
Yeah.
has an audio function that's an oscilloscope, so you can actually see your audio, both send and receive, to be able to help somebody whose audio is clipping or something like that, or if you're learning Morse code, you can actually see your code going across, which has helped me immensely on what I hear isn't what I see. And when I've talked to Elmer's, it's like, trust what you see, not what you hear. And so I use the oscilloscope function quite a bit.
Yeah.
So when you get some of the newer SDR radios, they have a lot of these other appliances or additional functions that are already built into them. So it's kind of nice to have.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of the newer radios, like you said, their SDR is becoming more and more popular, and the touch screens are becoming more and more popular too. And like you said, there's a lot of information they can put on that little touch screen, including the pan adapter.
As a new ham, when I was evaluating which type of HF radio to get, eHam Net eham.net was great reviews, but the amount of information that's available on YouTube
Mhm.
is staggering.
Yeah.
It's staggering in a good way. As an example, on the ICOM 7300 there's a guy that's put together at least 20 videos called ICOM 7300 A to Z, stepping you through every single option, menu, whatever. And for new hams, the hands-on video Elmer capability from YouTube was just so helpful.
Yeah, yeah. Anything. I think that's N4HNH. Is that the one you're thinking of?
I don't remember, but if you're looking how to, as an example, optimize your audio in a single sideband and balance compression versus other elements, how to adjust that and what the impact of those adjustments are.
Yeah.
It's just very instructive, and it's done at a level for a beginner or a novice. It does not assume that you're an electrical engineer in order to be able to be successful.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Anything, CW, digital. If you want to get specific, like you're looking for stuff for FT8, like you said, compression, mic gain. I mean, everything. There's all kinds of. You just have to search for it. It's really nice nowadays that you've got the internet available, that you can look up all this stuff. Yeah.
You might consider that if you're looking for a new radio, see what sort of tutorials are available. Some radios may not have much available, and you're kind of on your own. Or like the 7300, there's tons of info there.
Yeah.
It's just so well done, too. So it's the
Yeah.
highest level of quality.
I've looked through that A3Z series. It's pretty good.
Yeah, some of the sales retail websites, they also have a technical section where they'll have articles on certain things. And first one that comes to mind is grounding. Everybody's got an idea about grounding, but there's all kinds of information there. Also, too, if you're not familiar with ham radio outlet, the closest one is down in Plano, I think Dallas or Plano. Plano. We tried to get one here and they wouldn't go for it. They put it in Florida instead. They have a whole wall of radios. So if you have it narrowed down to 1 or 2 or 3 radios that you think, it's worth the trip to go down there. You can sit down there all afternoon. They don't care. You sit there all afternoon and you can play with the different radios and see which one you like the best. And they've got them hooked up to antennas and you can hear it, you can make contacts. They don't care. You know, it's available. So take advantage of that and you know, make sure you get the radio you want. Anybody else? Questions? I hope this was informative. It's tough when you've only got 45 minutes and you're at 35,000 feet. So, but we will be having more of these ham universities. And if there's a particular one that you want to hear about, you're probably not the only one. There may be others. So